Small crowd today.
Small crowd. People might roll back.
That's fine.
All right, thank you guys for coming. We have Charles Ross here going to be talking about a little bit of severe weather out in the plains and then probably the forecast for here at State College.
All right, thank you. Let's see, get this rolling. All right, so let's see. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate being here. A lot going on in the world's weather right now. The biggest story, probably for the whole globe, is tropical cyclone Debbie hit Queensland, Australia yesterday, or actually last night, midday Tuesday, Australia time. I'll show you a little bit on that. It was a pretty interesting storm to hit that far north in Australia. Today we're going to take a look at the Texas, Oklahoma area for severe weather, and we have an active weather pattern continuing for us. Nothing too out of the ordinary for this time of year. Generally, the end of March into April is very active for the Mid-Atlantic. So we are seeing some snow melt in the headwaters of our river basins, and that combined with some rainfall is producing some high water levels, but really not much in the way of flooding. So focusing on the cyclone Debbie just for a minute, it made landfall near Arrow Beach or Arley Beach as a Category 4 equivalent storm. It had 260 km/h winds, which if you convert, that's about 140 knots. So pretty 160-mile-an-hour winds. So pretty significant landfalling storm for Australia. So here's the day before at I forget what beach this is, but this is a little bit south of the eye wall. And as it came in, this is what it looked like. So you can kind of see the before and the after picture during the storm. Pretty devastating. I'm going to skip this. Here's a satellite photo as it moved inland. I'm sorry, as it made its approach towards this Arley Beach. And one of the things I was reading about this, it had a near perfect environment. I mean, there's almost no wind shear on top of this. It was took a while to strengthen, but it really hit a really warm area of water with perfect conditions, and it strengthened to like I said, a Category Type 4 storm relatively quick. Of course, this is Australia, so you should be able to notice the winds are blowing clockwise instead of counterclockwise, and you're seeing the westerlies affecting the. Well, you can't see it here, but if you look at today's satellite, you'll see the westerlies are affecting the southern end of the storm, not the northern end of the storm. So everything's a little different, but generally the same idea how the weather works. Here's the latest forecast. As you can see, the track kind of wobbled like it's typical, and it came in as a 4. Notice they got the cyclone tracks in a clockwise formation instead of counterclockwise. I thought that was pretty cool. It's down to a 2 and weakening now, but it's bringing a lot of late summer, early fall weather to this part of northern Australia. I'm going to show you a pretty interesting video. This is something that you aren't going to see. I've never seen this before, so I'll just kind of find it here. So this is, let's see if I can turn the sound on. Oops. I'll turn the sound off. That will work. But this is an infestation of sea foam a little bit north of the center. So you can see as it was, I forget, if the winds were blowing in, it must have been a little further south. I'm not sure where this was, but you can see this whole area got just. We're not talking about a little bit of sea foam. It was bringing in sea foam of substantial proportions into this area. I've never seen it before. You know what this guy is. Not really driving through water, he's just driving through foam. And I guess they said it was a very saltwater tasting foam, but snow in Australia, early fall. So there you go. I thought this was pretty fascinating. Have anyone ever seen this before? Like that? I never have. So that was, I'm sure, I haven't seen the Weather Channel or the people. I'm sure it's going to make its way through the news cycles for curious people. So let's see. That's pretty much it on that cyclone. That will be one to remember for Australia. So getting back to our talk here. Oops. think I have the wrong, I must have the wrong, well, we're going to move on to severe weather because I'm missing some slides here, but that's not going to stop us. So we'll focus now a little bit on the Texas, Oklahoma area today. And this is some NewGo 16 footage. This is a website from College DuPage that actually has some of this online. So anybody's free to go look at it. They have a bunch of sectors that they've already made for our area. They don't really have a good one on Texas, which was kind of disappointing for this talk, but at least we got one here. Already seeing overshooting tops. One thing I think we're seeing is a bit of sun glare as it's solar noon, and this is something that we learned about in our training. You're going to see for a period of time, parts of the image will get washed out for a little bit as the sun hits the directly over the satellite and it will move westward as the rest of the day goes on. So pretty soon we'll get a better image. It won't be as washed out, but you can see overshooting tops and a pretty dynamic situation here with, I'll show you the weather behind it here in a second, but we have a very strong cold trough coming in through a very active southern jet right now, and storms are already starting to fire, and we'll look at the HRRR here in a second, and you'll see it's going to be a real active afternoon. So for all the Weather Service offices there and the first responders to storm chasers, it's going to be a good day to be in Texas today. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the PSU map wall real quick. And actually, I already have it. We'll go to the HRRR right here, and we'll look at the latest HRRR for this area. So if you go into the, what do I want? I think I want South Central. We'll look at the, boy. We'll try this again. All right, we'll go back to the map wall because I know you can see it there pretty good. They've got the HRRR on here now. Where is it? Right here. We will do South Central. We'll start out just looking at the reflectivity. Here's the latest HRRR runs, and this is about as strong as you see convection on a CAMS model like this. It's still filling in, I think, but there's a period of time that you have a strong line with embedded supercells. They're expecting all types of severe weather today. It could be a little bit of they're expecting hail, high winds, and the threat of tornadoes. So it's going to be real active as the thing develops today for this South Central area. And if you go to the SPC page, if you look, they're in the convective outlook today. You'll see they're pinpointing, looks like Wichita Falls, maybe a little bit to the west of Wichita Falls, but parts of North Texas, southwest Oklahoma for the moderate. This is a chance. Tomorrow you'll notice, and we'll see on the models, everything shifts a little bit further to the east, into East Texas and Arkansas. Definitely going to be in the area, and then it makes its way here, and that's going to be our next weather system. For us up here will be the remnants of the strong southern stream trough, and it looks like it'll come here as a colder, a little bit more stable system. I don't think you maybe could rule out some convection later in the week, but for the most part, it looks more wet than it does anything else. And I guess we could turn our attention to the forecast. Go on to Rich Grum's webpage, and we'll look at last night's Jeff's to get a general idea what's happening out across the country right now. So I don't believe the 60s or the 12s is in, so we'll look at the 60. And we'll start out for the 500 level and see if we can see this. Should be able to, yeah, I don't know why it's turning, but here we are. This is for 0Z Wednesday, so this is for this evening. And again, this is really one of the upper level impetus for the severe weather. You have a strong cold pull off. You have a pretty strong difluent flow at 500. the mid and upper level dynamics are quite strong for this. So there's a good jet streak that was going through that I noticed as well. Pretty strong synoptic pattern set up for severe weather. And you get this in late March and April down here where the sun is starting to get pretty strong, and you got Gulf of Mexico moisture feeding into this ahead of the front. It's a good setup for severe weather. So we're gonna watch this thing over the next couple of days here. Notice out ahead of this, our system is just about through us now, and we can look at the visible, but there should be some breaks and some certainly warmer weather coming at us today, and especially for Wednesday and Thursday. So as that ridge slides over us, this is by tomorrow at this time. Notice even though the anomalies have weakened, still a pretty good setup with a southern stream trough coming into the deep south tomorrow and again on Thursday. And you'll see how this system weakens as it lifts and heads up into our area, but it won't come through here without a pretty good amount of rain. And this is on Friday 18Z, and by this point we're going to be cloudy and probably raining as we have this trough over us for about 12 to 18 hours on Friday night into Saturday. So that's really our next weather system. And upstream of there you'll see, again, we're doing these shortwave trough features, and notice here's the next southern stream upper level low coming into Texas. So look for another active period for weather heading into the weekend for Texas, I would guess, with this pattern. Looks like a lot of the energy ends up diving south, but there should still be enough left to bring Texas some more weather. And then we get quiet again, and all signs point to another trough coming through sometime next week. So really, the big picture for us is improving weather for the next 48 hours with another trough coming through, similar to what we just went through with the rain we had the other day, or last night, and a little bit this morning. Let's put on the probability of getting 1/10 of an inch in any 12-hour period. I like to look at this just to time weather systems, and you'll see. Actually, we'll look at the top one here, and I'm going to zoom in on us since we kind of care about how our weather is going to be as we head into the weekend. Let's move into this MRFC domain, and you'll see there's our system that's lifting right now, and it's all but gone by late tonight. Maybe there's a slight chance of some showers in the Poconos, but for the most part, that's out of here. We have two relatively high chances of dry days until we get into Friday. This is by into Friday. You'll see here comes the next system coming up with that trough. Almost a certainty that we're going to see at least 1/10 of an inch of rain here, which tells me, I like to move in and look a little, we'll see how heavy it is, but Friday it's going to be a wet day, according to the Jeff's members. Then showers sticking around into Saturday. Then we dry out a little bit, and let's go far enough out for the next storm. There comes the next one coming in later. This looks like midweek next week. We'll probably about this time next week we'll be talking about the next system. So two systems, in the next 5 to 7 days is kind of what we're looking at. Let's look a little bit deeper, see what our chances of getting a 1/2 inch of rain are, and you'll see pretty high chances for Center County. It's for central Pennsylvania on Friday. So this is going to be a nice wet system, and something to keep an eye out. And I'll finish this talk by trying to show an impact to this. So I'm the service hydrologist at the State College Weather Service office. So I deal with flooding and water issues, and I'm not terribly concerned right now. I think our river levels are low starting out, but with snow melt to the north and all this rain coming, it's something I kind of like to have an idea of what might happen down the road. So some of the smarter people in the National Weather Service in my office and a couple other offices have you Google something called MMEFS. They put together an ensemble hydrologic or a viewer that will take the Jeffs and the NAIFs, and on top of that they'll put the river models, which are run. These are automated river models, so they're not looked at by humans, so they can have wild errors at times. But it's just a good idea to see what's going to happen. And you'll see with this time of year, with the moist soil conditions, I believe, let's see, what are we looking at here? We're looking at the Jeffs run, I'm guessing it's the 60 run, you can put on the naves and the SRF, but we'll just focus on the Jeffs. And you can kind of get an idea what the Jeffs is saying. And we'll look up here at, we'll look at Tawana, at this gauge up here on the upper main stem of the Susquehanna. Given all the models that I just showed you, remember we have a wide range of model solutions from the Jeffs. This is the forecast hydrograph. So for today, they're talking about the most probable rise is somewhere close or a couple feet below the action level up there. But with the rain coming later this week, it's saying, hey, keep an eye out for another significant rise as the conditions get a little bit more moist. The snow is melted, the soils are moist. From here on out, we're going to be susceptible. One or 2 inches of rain up at this part of the upper headwaters of the Susquehanna. It's going to be something to keep an eye on. Now, I'll say this. I like to say this run's a little hot. The models seem to respond quickly at times to this, but it's still worth watching. And you can see a huge range of solutions, including one rogue run, which goes to the moderate level, which I would discount at this point. I've learned in the river forecast business, don't get too confident on anything until you're inside 24, maybe 36 hours. You just don't have that window of predictability around here like you do for the weather. So, but I will be watching hydrographs as we head through the rest of the week. And if anybody's interested in hydrology and how it relates to weather, the MMEFS page is a nice resource to look at. So that is pretty much it. Any questions or comments on the weather right now?
How much of the big snowpack is left in northern Pennsylvania, southern New York?
There's an answer to that. I'll show you. Thanks for good. I should have probably shown that. I don't know if anybody's heard of the EDD page. It's if you go Google NWS EDD, there is previewed up, and it's did this again. Hold on here. If you Google it, you're not going to get the right page anymore. It used to work, but hang on a second. I'll fix this. Preview.weather.gov/EDD. This page is a one-stop shop for a wide range of weather information. If you go down here to more layers, then you go down here to winter, and if you go to the first, you'll see the snow depth, snow contours. You can kind of get an idea what's left, and then you can highlight counties and states. It kind of shows up a little bit better. You can bring a scale in here, and our area in northern Pennsylvania appears to be pretty much out of snow. Is there some in the forest? Yeah, probably. But for the most part, it's going to be inconsequential. But the headwaters of the Susquehanna River and the Delaware River Basin are up here. And we've had some reports of some areas up in the Catskills and that area that still have close to a foot of snow on the ground. So there's still a little bit up in extreme northeast Pennsylvania and into New York State. Of course, you go into New England and you're still deep in winter as they're still thawing out up there, especially up in Maine. Pretty typical for this time of year. Other than that, up the UP of Michigan still has a little bit of snow, still melting off the last of the snow up in the Dakotas. And of course, the West is going to have a snowpack probably into next year. I mean, some of the snow's not going to melt. So it's just so deep up in the Sierras, and of course, it never melts on Hood around, Oregon. That's semi-permanent up there, and a large part of the West. So, but still a good Western snowpack for this time of year, which is also very good news for the West, for California. Thanks. That's a good question. Anything else? Any other questions? Comments? Yeah. Hey, thanks for spending some time. Appreciate showing up.
Thanks, guys. Next week we'll have Dave Dombeck from AccuWeather. All right. Thank you.